Please stand up, everyone. Let us start our class with a short prayer. Please lead the prayer, Glenn. Okay, thank you, Glenn. Good morning, class. How are you today? Let me check the attendance. Please say present when your name is called. Pick up pieces of trashes under your desk and arrange your chairs. We are about to start our lesson. Before we proceed, let's review our previous lesson. Who can tell me the difference between a postulate and a theorem? Before we start our lesson, I will show a scenario. I will ask three different questions. So here is the scenario. Imagine you're playing a new board games with friends, but the rule book has same missing definition. It says move your piece to the square, but it never explains what the square means. So how would you play the game? Jomai, if the game doesn't define certain terms like what the square is or how to win, what do you think would happen? Okay, thank you, Jomai. It could not play the game properly. Yes, you're right. Mercy, I have a question for you. Why do you think it's important to define some terms in math? Yes, you're right, Mercy, so that we know what they mean. You are all very good. Thank you, everyone. Just like games and instructions need clear rules and some basic assumptions, mathematical systems rely on defined and undefined terms to work. Today, we'll explore how these terms form the foundation of mathematical system. Let's have an activity, and it's called Classify Me. Today, we'll work in a group to classify pictures representing a line, a point, and a plane. And each group will receive materials and have 5 minutes to complete the task. Great work, everyone. Let's reflect on the activity. What real-world object help you classify? The pictures. Why do you think we need this classification in mathematics? So the activity introduces us to a mathematical system in a real-world objects, help us organize thoughts and draw conclusions which are essential in mathematical reasoning. Now let me introduce our topic, which is mathematical system, and the subtopic are defined and undefined terms. Today, class will be diving into the topic of the mathematical system. This is a foundational concept in geometry and mathematics as a whole. Of course, our learning objectives. By the end of the lesson, the student should be able to first, describe a mathematical system. Second, define and illustrate a mathematical system. Third, illustrate the need for axiomatic structures of the mathematical system in general and in geometry. In particular, defined terms, undefined terms, and lastly, participate actively in discussion. When we say mathematical system is divided into four parts, namely defined, undefined terms, postulate, and theorem. But today, we will be focused on the two, which is the defined and undefined terms. And what is undefined terms? In geometry, some terms are called undefined terms. These are so basic that we cannot precisely define them. We can only describe or illustrate them. They include point, line, and plane. And now let's explore each of these. Let's start with a point. So a point indicates a position in space. It has no dimension, no length, no width, or no thickness. It simply represents a location. For example, imagine the tip of a pen touching paper. It represents a point. We name a point using a capital letter like A and represent it with a dot. Next is line. When we say line, a line has infinite length, but no width or thickness. It extends infinitely in two directions and represented by a straight line with arrowheads. For example, think of a stretched thread that goes on forever in both directions. Now, let's proceed to the plane. When we say plane, a plane is a flat surface that extends infinitely in all directions, gapon, and it has no thickness but infinite length and width. For example, pictures the surface of a whiteboard extending forever in every direction. Point, line, and plane, those are undefined terms, class. And now let us proceed to the defined terms. What are those defined terms? What is defined terms? So when we say defined terms, unlike undefined terms, defined terms have a formal definition. These include concepts built from undefined terms like collinear point, line segment, and etc. Under defined terms, first we have a collinear points. When we say collinear points are two or more points that lie on the same line. So, nana siya definition, clear definitions. And as you can see in the picture, so muna siya gitawag na collinear points. Second is non-collinear points. When we say non-collinear points, are points that do not have the same line. So, kung makakita ganun, as you can see sa picture, so, ang naghiwi siya, bali wala siya naka-straight na, ang usa ka line, bali na yung usa ka line na wala naglay, wala siya naglay sa same line. Unlike sa collinear points, all of the points naglay jud siya sa same line. Wala jud ni sibag na bisan sa. So that is the difference between collinear points and non-collinear points. Next is coplanar points. So when we say coplanar points, points that line in the same plane. Well, when we say non-collinear points, points that do not lie in the same plane. So, as you can see sa picture, so, ma-differentiate yun ninyo what is coplanar points and non-coplanar points. So, muna inyo hang tigaman. When we say coplanar, ang points nag-lie in the same plane. Well, when we say non-coplanar points, of course, the point do not lie in the same plane. And now, let's proceed to line segment. When we say line segment, a point of a line consisting two endpoints. So, muna siya. So, you can see sa picture, muna siyang gitawag na line segments. Next is ray. When we say ray, is a part of a line with a starting point or end point but no ending point. So, that is the definition of ray. So, sabot-tabot na kayo siya, no? Then, so, as you can see in the pictures, that called ray. And lastly, we have opposite ray. When we say opposite rays, are rays with a common endpoint but extending in opposite directions. So, that is the definition of opposite ray. So, kabaliktaran sad siya sa definition sa ray. So, as you can see sa picture, muna siya ay opposite ray. So, dili ra jud maglibog kay tigamaan na ninyo yung mga clue, yung definition ug ang iyang picture. Now that you already know what is mathematical system, how to define and illustrate mathematical system, what are the different undefined terms and defined terms, now let's have a activity. Think of two objects from your home that can represent a point, a line, and a plane. Write them down in your notebook. And now, to test your understanding, if you really understand the discussion class, let's have a evaluation. And here is the direction. Provide a definition of each undefined terms and draw a diagram to illustrate it. Now, first is you are going to define point and draw a diagram to illustrate it. Second, define line and of course draw a diagram to illustrate it. And lastly, define plane and draw a diagram to illustrate it. And for your assignment class, here is the instructions. So for your assignment class, here is the instruction. Draw a map of a fictional town or city on a large sheet of paper. Second, represent each of the undefined terms in your map. So for the point, use dots to mark a specific location. And for the line, use straight lines for straight or paths. And for the plane, use a section of the map. And lastly, add labels to your map to clearly identify the points, lines, and planes. And that's all, class, for today's discussion. Thank you for listening and God bless.